to introduce Ed Shannon Donahue, new council member. Kyle Bernander, council member. No, Tyler. And then Sarah McReith.
All right, according to my watch, it's 5:30, so we'll commence with the City of Portage Park and Recreation Board meeting. My name is Chuck Sulik. I am the chair of this board. Welcome all of you, and we'll get right down to our agenda. Toby, will you please call the roll?
Sulik,
Here.
Bernander.
Here.
Donahue. Here. Camrath.
Here.
Carlson. Here. McReith.
Have a quorum. Public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on any issue, and we do have an individual by the name of Kyle Little who has expressed interest in speaking to the board. Kyle, would you like to come up and state your name, address, and
Name is Kyle Little, 327 River Street, Portage, Wisconsin. I appreciate the time that the board's allowed me tonight to speak on the topic of the discussion of possible action on skate park maintenance, number 5. I'm here tonight to go over some information that was provided to the board, including its director over the years. I see some new faces, which would include the skate park maintenance policy. That policy is an obligation that has been deemed something of the better words of forgotten about. I bring it to your attention as it is a city park. The city parks have many different amenities in them, and those city parks contain restrooms, shelters, including skate parks, tennis courts, badminton, pickleball. It's something that has been discussed administration after administration after administration, including an administration about 2 administrations ago with a former mayor who had developed a ongoing maintenance policy that with that policy outlined instructions for the park and recreation director and its team to go out and assess damages and or any kind of defects that may be in the park. Now, with that being said, I don't know if the current board has seen any kind of recommendations and or outline that would suggest that the park has even had a thorough check throughout the time of that policy being in place since 1, 2, 3 administrations. I have not yet seen one as an employee at Grindline Skate Parks, Inc. that I'm aware of, or have been presented any information that has otherwise justified to say that has been followed. The park was sealed and soft washed in a prior year. It is coming up on a term in 2026 where it should be done prior to the new winter coming up. In your packets, I have seen some photos that represent maintenance that was done on behalf of the Portage Family Skate Park project and team members from the Parks Department as well as Public Works. The concerns that I'm expressing tonight is simply put, we have brand new facilities that have been paid for on the backs of the taxpayers. The tools necessary to do these jobs are something that should be already in inventory. A soft wash machine that could power wash the surface of concrete, as well as sealant that could be purchased at a wholesale price, which we have used in other parks. The problem and or issue that I am seeing currently is the lack thereof effort to address and continue to provide that maintenance for the park on an ongoing basis and provide you, the board, its community, a plan of action. That plan of action, whether I haven't seen it or any of you board members or council members, I have not seen that plan of action. So it's troubling to think, since 2016, we are still talking about this in 2025 as an award-winning skate park that is recognized nationally, that has had Tony Hawk, as well as the Bones Brigade and several other high-profile figures come to our community, as well as bring in taxpayers. It has been noted all across Facebook, social media, newspaper articles, the news, as that award-winning park. And as I walk into this building, I don't see that park being recognized at all. On a wall, a statement of recognition, just like the proclamation that was given from the last mayor. These are concerning factors, knowing that I can look around in the city of Portage as a long-term resident to see the habitual non-care of our amenities. Whether it is staffing, whether it is financial, the obligation is there to take care of our facilities. The current mayor ran on the subject that we need people to come to Portage. If we cannot provide facilities that are well-maintained, beautified, who is going to come to Portage? Because of a home, our taxes just went up. We've had several referendums. I'm finding it hard to believe that we are going to take care of our amenities when they have been given as a gift with many, many years of love and dedication from many, many people, including businesses, including the department and our public works. A lot of time and effort has gone into this park. We have done things outside of our scope as well to help with the safety of Goodyear Park and several other parks as a Portage Skate Park board. Many donors. I'm looking at some of the people here on the board with last names that are recognizable, that family members have donated to the skate park. What you see in the back, the packet that was supplied with you, for you tonight, dictates kind of, in my opinion, a notion that we don't really care. And it's hard for me to believe that we put pictures in a packet that shows after the fact, after maintenance was done, not what is currently sitting there that is wide open. For those that are familiar with how crack chafing, items of that nature, what happens when a freeze-thaw happens and water gets in there, they blow out. There is spots that need to be addressed, and that won't happen unless it is soft washed, clear of debris, and then sealed before winter. Really, it comes down to budgeting maybe? I don't know. We have now received another quote from a local company right out of Madison that has severely dropped the price. Again, because it's an ongoing maintenance. We have gone through 4,200, give or take, down to 3,500, which I don't believe that estimate is in the packet. If it is, it hasn't been amended. It has not been amended. So I sit here today asking for this board to reevaluate its parks. Prioritize what has already been given to you before you start building more and not taking care of it. Because the backbone of this community is already broken. Taxes are up. We find ourselves in a position where people are moving away. And now, once again, we are looking at our amenities going, we're not going to care for them, but here is a gift. 23 years, many families, businesses, including myself, spent on this project. I was very disappointed to find out that I had to come here tonight to make a statement about it. For the simple fact that now I'm 43 years old. I was much younger when I was first introduced to Portage, when I moved here from out of town, and met with former director Tim Raymer, who pulled my name out of a filing cabinet that's older than I am, and contacted me at the resort where I worked as the youngest resort manager in Wisconsin Dells history at 19 years old, at a resort that housed more people in one summer that the city of Portage has in population. Appreciate that. What I'm asking the board today is to evaluate the quote and ask yourselves, do we want to provide that funding, or do we want to go out and get a couple quotes and watch that increase? Or maybe the Portage Family Skate Park project realizes that they don't have the tools necessary to do the job, and we provide them the soft wash equipment, and we get some sort of policy that is binding in order to have a part-timer or somebody else do the work, because it's only 2 days worth of work. We're willing to make more sacrifices to have this park generation after generation used, and to provide families with an outlet that may not have the money to go through traditional park and rec programs. We have several of those residents here. I was one of them. That Boys and Girls Club that we see is a lifesaver. Don't take these things away just because we're cutting.
Thank you, Mr. Little.
You're welcome. Thank you, board.
We do have this as an agenda item, item number 4, so perhaps.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, approval of minutes from previous meeting held September 17th, 2024. Kyle?
I'll move to approve the minutes of September 17, 2024.
I'll second that. Roll call vote, please, Toby?
Bernander,
Aye.
Donahue,
Aye.
Camreth, Carlson. McReith. Sulik.
Aye. Item number 4, discussion and possible action on Rolling Prairie Conservancy/Dog Park sign. Recently, the City Plan Commission has given approval for the location of the sign, and we wanted to address the actual signage that would be put in place at this particular park setting. Toby, you want to
So,
give us the
yeah, so a little bit of background. So obviously, there's the map of the Rolling Prairie Conservancy Dog Park that is in the process of being developed. Obviously, grass is out there a little ways away before it can be opened up with some growth going into place. The individual, Jeff Vine, is here. If we need to recognize him, part of the GUMS team, I believe, that worked on the dog park design. We sent this to Planning Commission originally because normally park signs, in a park, this is a park, but the sign that they proposed is in the right-of-way. So Planning Commission had to weigh in that they approved of that location.
Location would be identified.
Right at the entrance right there. Yes. In that discussion, it was brought up that being that it's a park, this should go back to Park and Rec Board for acceptance or approval of the sign that would go in the park. As you can see, there is the sign that they are proposing. They, under my understanding, would pay for the cost of the sign, and maybe we can have Jeff come up here and answer any questions for you in a second to put that in and install. Can you scroll to the next one for me? The conversation is all of our parks have a uniform sign. If you go through all the parks, they have that sign, basically, welcome to the park. It's got the Portage Park and Rec on the bottom, city logo.
I would make it smaller, but this is as small as it will go.
So we can pass that around if people need to see it too, just kind of what the park signs are all. So being that this is a park, should it be uniform that this location, this park, Dog Park Conservancy, be like our other park signs? So I think, if you don't mind, I think we should bring up Jeff just to kind of give some background on the sign and their thoughts from the team.
Fine, please.
So as Toby said, my name's Jeff Vine. I'm a development consultant that works for the GUMS. And the Conservancy Park and the dog park were part of the 70-acre development that's going on there for the new residential subdivision. And the work that we did for the park was part of the development agreement. And I guess from our perspective, I understand the wanting consistency, maybe throughout your normal parks, but maybe this isn't that cut and dry. This is a, you know, it was a partnership between the developer and the city. The city set aside the land, but the developer paid for all of the improvement for the park, and a large portion of it is conservancy. There's trails throughout the conservancy, there's trails throughout the subdivision, and so from our perspective, we feel like it's a big part of our subdivision, and I know for the Parks Department, who's going to take it and maintain it in the future, that I understand the argument to want to have the sign have some consistency, but to us, it's a huge amenity. So when all phases of the subdivision are built out, there's going to be 600 to 700 people that are going to be living in Rolling Prairie. And if you take a look at the map and where this is located, there isn't a whole lot of other housing around that area. So, you know, for far and away, we think the people that are going to use that the most are going to be the people that live in Rolling Prairie. And so for us, it's a huge amenity. It's something that helps us sell lots, and it helps us for people that are going to come in and develop multifamily housing there. And so being such a big piece of our marketing and our amenity, we wanted to be able to brand that and provide the sign. So it was not part of the original scope of work for the park, but the developer is willing to pay for it. There's other things that go along with the sign that you can see here. There's a bunch of boulders that need to be relocated out there. There's 2 trees that need to be trimmed, and then there's the installation of the sign, and then kind of restoration of the landscaping after we get done with that. So it's approaching $10,000 worth of work, all included, including the sign. And I guess that was part of us paying for it, was wanting to have that branding match the subdivision.
Does the logo that's on that sign, is that like a logo that is going to be throughout Rolling Prairie, like the phases when you're advertising? I mean, is that the reason for kind of the logo up in that left-hand corner of that sign?
Correct. And if you go back to maybe the map and you can see where there's some walking trails, there's also going to be some wayfinding signage, like right where the arrow is a good example. There's a multi-use path that comes north from the multi-use path that we paid for all along Gunderson and Hamilton that connects, and we're going to have some wayfinding signage at different intersections of that path that will also be branded and have the same colors and the same logo. And then as you come into the subdivision, you would see this conservancy sign on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, when you get to the corner of Hunter's Trail and Gunderson, we've got a $20,000 masonry monument sign with the same font and the same logo there. So, you know, you can see why selfishly we're trying to have it be part of our community that we're building. You know, at least you understand the other side of the argument.
So for the board's sake, I don't object to either way, but this is a decision that the board, and we wanted just to lay everything out before we move forward, so that's giving you the fact. I do think that the sign that they're putting up is a very nice sign, nothing wrong with it. It just comes down to consistency. In our parks, do we care that this is going to be a different style sign than all of our other parks? So I am fine either way. The cost, like if they don't do this sign, and we do park signs to this, we do every year in our budget have to replace signs, to put this newer sign that we've been replacing 2 a year. We do have 2 of those in this year's budget. As of where they go, one is Sunrise, one was talking about doing something out at the Highway 33 Wayside. We could move that around, and we could, you know, have some funding to put that we would purchase and have in our budget to do. Those signs are about $1,700 to $1,800. City installs them. Nothing like this style sign. As you can see, it's more of just a basic sign. To Jeff's point, I think this is a different location. We haven't really had a park in a development that, since I've been here, or since the sign process has kind of gone on throughout the city with these signs. So there is a little different, some variables there to consider.
Okay, so in that area, is there gonna be a playground, or is it more or less just outdoor, paths and, the dog park?
That's correct. So the subdivisions is designed and done and being built, right? And so what is included now is the 20-acre land that was set aside for the Conservancy and the dog park, and then all of those walking trails. So in the two phases that we're building now of the subdivision, there isn't some other, more, like a small neighborhood park with play equipment and things like that.
So one of the things that went into this, that this had come before Park Board before, we requested some more space. Originally, it started a little smaller. There was some work done. If you look up on the map, there is the far left, more of a separate area that we would call a small dog, a larger dog area with trails. We added a double gate, right, for control of going in. There is some future amenities we talked about, getting water, potentially a small shelter. Those things potentially down the road, but that would be on the city to add those amenities. But this is more seen as more of like walking paths, trails, dog park area.
And just to add to that, because we were here, I think, Chuck, you must be on the Plan Commission as well, right? Because when we came to get the second phase of Rolling Prairie approved, Chuck actually brought up that same question. And so we have 3 phases of residential to the east of this that are planned. And in one of those chunks of those phases would be a good place for us to design the next park. And it obviously wouldn't be like this. It would be more of that type of small neighborhood park for the families that are there closer.
Okay. Because the reason why I asked was because I know that the parks that have the particular sign is more or less like with the kids, the slides, the, swings and everything. And I don't see an issue with the sign that they're requesting to put out there because it kind of makes it different in regards to it's not going to be just for kids' entertainment. It's going to be more of an outdoor, environmental recreation area with the park, with the paths and stuff like that. So that's why I was looking at why, if it's not going to have the swing sets or anything else like that, that new sign would probably make them aware that it's not just
This
swings
park
and stuff.
setting, this park setting is more than just a dog park. I mean,
Correct.
there is a trail system
Right.
that could be available for people that want to go out and by the area. And I agree with Mr. Thine that Rolling Prairies Park here that's in question is an amenity for Rolling Prairie. It's also an amenity for the balance of community, and I would like the community to understand that this is a city park, that they're welcome, that they feel comfort in attending, using this park as they might any other park facility. That's why we have a standard design. We use that sign throughout the system of parks throughout the city of Portage. And I feel as though we should have that kind of recognition at this facility as well. Kyle?
Yeah, I actually like the sign. I think it's kind of a common practice in other cities when they have developments and need kind of their own branding for their development. And, 20 years from now, this thing will probably be faded a little bit, and we'll probably have to replace it anyway at some point. So if they need the branding to sell the lots now, doesn't bother me. Fine sign.
Thoughts?
The only other thing would just be, this would be the time before, hopefully, if whatever we go with, if we're gonna go with this sign, once again, is the verbiage, right? So what they have, if you have any thoughts or questions, let's get them on the table tonight and not after the fact, be like, oh, I wish we could added this or whatever. So, I think it does set aside the dog park. The Conservancy, I think, kind of people understand Conservancy and pass. I don't think we would want to put 2 signs. I think that would be silly. If we put like our sign and this sign, that would just not look good. So I think because of the logo and kind of as more of the stuff that they're putting throughout for identification, as you talked about branding in the past like that, it is a little different. It's just something that we have to decide as a committee to move forward with or to stay with our.
So would a precedent be set, if we allow the branding to this particular park, what about the next developer proposal who wants to put their own brand on it? Hey, you've done that in the past, we really want this.
The one thing I just add to the signage is, like, to Jeff's point, they're gonna do some cleaning up of some restoration, tree pruning, I mean, that stuff would still need to be done. That will fall on the city to do some cleanup and putting the sign in. Not that we can't do it, but this is kind of them giving back too, to make this, they have interest in doing this to make this attractive to people to come there as well too. So I see truly both sides of this argument.
And I know from the Gums perspective that they feel like the vast majority of what they're doing is for the community and is giving back. So a little bit they're asking to be able to have this in exchange for all of the stuff that they're doing out there. For the most part, everything that we're doing, we're trying to do
Sure.
good things for Portage.
And I think that as we talk later in the agenda, our future court plan, our websites, our list of parks, this would still be listed, right? So people would see that listed of park, throughout the city would be listed in all those documentations.
Do we have it in our budget to prepare a sign? Is that what I'm understanding?
We could change and put
So-
our other sign in.
Would there be a way to address both sides, both interests? Come back to a standard sign, but recognizing prairie grass, welcome Rolling Prairie Conservancy / Dog Park, City of Portage, Wisconsin, something like that.
I guess, and I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but if we're gonna pay for it, we want this sign. If we're not gonna pay for it, then you guys can do whatever you want with the sign. I mean, really, that's the decision that we have tonight. So,
Do you want to get input from other members, maybe? Just kind of go around on what people feel?
Sarah?
I guess I agree too. I don't see the difference of, I guess I see both sides of it, but I guess if they're doing this, standardized if it matters on the side of it.
Shannon?
I guess one of my questions would be, is who maintains the sign after it's put up? Is that something that if the sign was bad, is one to replace the sign down the road, or is that on us?
we've spent about $100,000 out there, and when we're done, Toby's gonna take care of it.
Donate it to the city, essentially.
But I can tell you that the sign that we're providing, it's metal and it's a high quality. It's not a wooden sign or just a painted wood sign that's going to delaminate or something like that. So I think we're giving you a good start that hopefully you don't have to do anything with it for 20 years.
I believe that we have to recognize the efforts for people that are trying to make our city better, and I understand the argument about standardized signs, but this is a very in-kind thing they've done to our city. They're trying to grow our housing base, and I would vote to accept that sign.
I would also agree in regards to the signage from the Gums. I don't see a point in regards to, I mean, like you said, it would cost about $10,000 to move the boulders. So if we were gonna put our own sign up, basically, we're the ones that's gonna end up having to clean the site out and also do the trees, right? And then put our sign out if we decided to do our own sign. That's
I think that 10,000 includes everything. Like, I think
It includes the
the
sign.
cost of the sign, doing some restoration of cleaning up the site where it would go, pruning some trees. I don't know what the sign dollar amount is for them.
But that, like I said, if we
be
decided
some
not to
on
go
us.
with with their sign, then we're looking at the one
We would have
that-
to do that,
Yes.
There's more than
So-
just your $1,800 sign.
Yep.
That's
just to
correct.
put it in.
That's what the point that I was getting to was,
Yep.
that would be our responsibility if we said no. And, right now, I think if they're willing to do the, work and put the sign out, then I don't see why we can't just allow them to.
And would it be acceptable if the city might include its image that's been a standard, been a part of the standard signage, perhaps, as a compromise?
I think he's talking about the logo. If you go to the next sign on, it's somewhere that city logo be added to the sign.
I guess I don't know how to comment on that, other than I think maybe the city parks department should look at rebranding their logo, but,
It's the city logo, not the parks.
okay.
I understand.
I guess I'd rather call the vote and decide if we can accept it as it's designed, because I'd like to get it approved. I'd actually like to get it bought and installed before the Parade of Homes, because it is important to the Gums, so I don't want to go another round if we don't have to.
Kyle,
I'll move to approve the sign as proposed.
do we have a motion and a second?
And second, yes.
Roll call vote?
Any other discussion you want
Oh,
to?
yeah, any other discussion?
Donahue?
Yes.
Amrath?
Yes.
Carlson?
Yes.
McReith? Sulik? Bernander?
Yep.
Passes.
All right, thanks,
Move forward.
everybody, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi, Jeff.
All right, item number 5, discussion and possible action on skate park maintenance. We've heard from Mr. Little. Toby, can you give
Yep,
us more
yep.
background?
So, to give you a little bit of background, I received an email from the company that pressure washed and did some sealing for us last year. I have not received any communication from Mr. Little. I didn't do anything with that at that time, obviously because we were gonna go into the year what we wanted to do. So it's been brought to my attention that the city is not doing its responsibilities of maintaining this facility. So what I included in the pack, and I'll talk about some other stuff that he referenced not in the pack, which doesn't have to be in the pack and we can still discuss, is in 2024, through grants, through donations, some provided by the Portage Family Skate Park. I work very closely with Mr. Little on some improvements and some maintenance that took place down at that facility. You will see that we added some fencing for safety, that it's not necessarily just for the skate park, but it's at the ends of the skate park so people don't run in the street. We added, one of the improvements, if you can scroll down, is we had some drainage issues. So we added some curbing. That's the fencing on the ends. Keep going. So you'll notice off of the edge and the hill, the water, when it rained, would wash dirt down into the skate park. Me and Kyle met, we looked at it, and we brought somebody in. We added some additional curbing that could be used as a feature when people are using the park, but also to try to control some of the washout and erosion that was happening there. So we added that. We added some concrete that the staff did. So on the other side, there was no ADA accessibility into the splash pad or into the shelter or into the skate park off of DeWitt. So we added that feature. We had a company come in, North Range Pressure Wash. This is the individual that he referenced. Came in, we paid them $4,200 last year. We pressure washed, did some seal coating. From his quote, you can see, we also added an umbrella over some picnic tables. So I'm not saying that we don't need to do anything, but I just want to point out that from the Park and Rec, we have limited budgets. I have to figure out and manage from the city, this is your pot of money, what are we going to put into all of our facilities? I only have so much money. I look at it no different than the roads. There's been lots of conversations within the city about our roads. I think we all agree we probably could spend $20 million on roads, but we don't have $20 million to spend, so we have to make some hard choices. So we did put some money into the skate park last year, that we did do some improvements and maintenance to this facility. So the question is, does it need to be done again in 2025 based on that we just did it? Now, there is some guidelines from Grindline, who put in the last phase of maintenance. They recommend to do seal coating more often and doing some other features, but I look at it no different of having to choose your house, right? Like the individual that puts in your furnace is probably gonna tell you to change your filters multiple times a year, update stuff is gonna last longer. But you have to decide how much money you're gonna spend when you maintain different things throughout your private life or in our park system. We do earmark $1,500 in our operating budget for skate park maintenance. Okay? So, once again, I've had no conversation with Mr. Little that if this is something that they want to do, we could provide $1,500, and is there any funding that they would provide to the city? That's one option. Another option is we could reach out and see if this is something that we feel should be done. Maybe we split it up in a rotating cycle that we're going to put $1,500 into this maintenance this year, and then we kind of slowly work through the whole facility. There is some caulking that was done, some pictures. If you go down there, there's some small cracks. There is some cracks that could be needing to be caulked. We can show you some of those pictures. To get that, reach out some recommendations from Grindline of what they provide or recommend, some staff to go out and do it. So the decision isn't that we're walking away from it. The decision is, I guess, what can we afford? What do we want to commit with our resources to keep the skate park in a positive, moving forward asset for the city? There is a park and rec maintenance. Do you have that? That was drafted in 2022 with previous Mayor Dodd. Portage Skate Park Annual Maintenance and Policy. There was some guidelines that was put together, but the first sentence, this policy is not intended to be all-inclusive nor imply an annual obligation, but provides recommended annual maintenance to be conducted on the skate park facility with the goal to ensure public safety and eliminate known public safety hazards. If you were to walk out there today, I do not believe, is there some maintenance that could be done, some caulking? There is no hazards at the facility that could cause injury at this time.
Questions from the board?
So the direction from the board, I guess, just if you have things you would like to see done, I have no issues reaching out to Mr. Little in the very near future and to talk about some of the issues that he wants us to stay on top of with his expertise, with his recommendations. Kyle has a lot of passion and he knows a lot about skate parks. I will not take that away from Kyle. He knows a heck of a lot more, and I would love to have that conversation with him. The issue I have is Kyle never reached out to me to discuss any of this. He sent emails to board members, he sent emails to others that we should be doing this pressure washing. So that is the concern that I have, that we need to work together, but it feels like her saying that we're not taking care of this, and I disagree with that. If you do reach out to some other communities, the maintenance is kind of what you see as maintenance. So some recommendations, the power wash, he references equipment to rent. Does the city want to invest in buying equipment to do once a year based on all the other stuff? Maybe we can work together and we can have users of the park that we pay for some supplies, and is there volunteers that he has expertise that would come out and help, do some of the caulking or the seal coating that we've talked about some of that stuff in the past. So I guess I'm looking for, does anybody have anything? Do you think at this time in this year's budget that we should look to move forward to have this gentleman come back and spend $3,500 to pressure wash and seal coat it again this year? Because if that's what you want to do, we need to talk about where you would like me to cut that other $2,000 in what we don't do in park maintenance from the 2025 budget.
Questions? I went on site just to do my own inspection, if you will. I am not an expert, I'm not an engineer. I don't know much at all about concrete, but I do know that concrete cracks, and over time, it can get a lot worse, and it's always better to address problems early than it is later on, because then you're gonna have major expense. So one question is, how bad is it? And do we need to make some kind of maintenance move to address those cracks in the sealant yet this year? What I'm hearing from Toby is that he does not feel as though there are any hazards at this point. But long range, we have to decide what our policy is going to be in terms of providing funding, an operating budget to take care of ongoing maintenance. Not only true for the skate park, but all our parks throughout the city. If you don't do proper maintenance on a regular basis, if you don't do it, you're going to have problems early, and things are going to wear out. I mean, you can double the lifetime, the economic life of facilities if you do ongoing maintenance. So I do know that's important, Kyle.
So when we do other park projects and we have other parks that have structures being constructed, and don't we usually get a warranty on those?
Well, it's like for playground, I mean, like on the playground equipment, for example, over at Paquette Park, we had a crack slide. So there was like, some of the stuff is 1 year, some of the stuff is 5 years, they sent us replacement parts for it, right? There was warranty, I actually worked with Kyle. Kyle actually was proactive and he came out and gave a list of some things to have me reach out to Grindline to do some warranty work that we did have done. So those are things that, from his expertise, that we tried to have some things done. From that standpoint, one of the things I think, if we want to keep adding and doing this more often, which that's fine, but I also think we got to discuss it in the budget process for 2026. So can we get by with doing some limited maintenance in 2025, meaning work with Kyle, some caulking, some of the things that we feel we should try to do now, and then look to 2026 if we need to look to add some more money into the maintenance budget, or putting together a list of what should be done in 2026.
Mr. Little? Yes, please.
We talked about the cost that was presented, $3,500. It was more when we did it the year prior, and we talk about every other year. We go into a winter year. But when we go into a winter year, we're going into 26, so it needs to be done prior to 26. North Range Pressure Washing and Concrete Repair LLC gave a quote of $3,500. It's a reduction of $700 from the previous winter year. It has been stated to our director that that cost will continue to go down as we acquire the supplies in order to do that maintenance. It is going to continue to go down. I have a quote from Grindline that was presented to Toby in regards to the entire skate park of the same services. That quote is $11,000. I can tell you that I just did a maintenance repair in a neighboring city here in Wisconsin. After 2 years of not doing it in our weather, they had a massive blowout where a freeze thaw happened, done by our company. We went and assessed it. That was a $15,000 repair. Like the chair had mentioned, stay on top of it. If there is equipment that can be purchased that the Public Works Department or the Park and Rec does not have, I think the time and effort by department staff will go a long ways. I don't feel that it should be pushed back onto volunteers. I have had communications with Toby quite often. I should not have to present this idea of doing the maintenance to our director every year and follow up. It should be something that should be outlined as a working schedule, just like any other amenity.
Kyle, since last year,
it's
let me
very difficult.
interrupt here,
Yes,
Kyle.
sir.
So I've been with the city for 6 years.
Yes?
There was a director before me for 7 years, roughly, after Mr. Raymer.
Yes.
This is the third phase that just went in.
Correct.
Before last year, when was the last time the skate park did any seal coating or crack filling?
We were still having this conversation.
So my question, it hasn't been done in 13 years.
We made some progress, didn't we, Toby?
Absolutely.
But now here we are again.
So my point where I'm going with this is we went 13 years approximately with the first two phases of not doing anything, and we just did it, and the skate park looks pretty darn good right now.
That's
I'm not
because of
in
quality.
I'm not questioning that it needs to be done. I'm questioning how often it needs to be done.
It's quality. When you pay for something that's quality, that's what you get. You get an outcome that is a park that could extend its life 40, 50 years. Right now, if you were to go down to the park, look around, look at the flats, there is chip outs. Those are hazards. Ardex is a compound that we put on, which we did on our own dime. We talk about these other things that are kind of in the scope that the Parks Department helped with, not necessarily in the scope of the skate park. A fence that we contributed to, ADA sidewalk that we communicated. These are safety things that we just generally want to do. But the skate park just can't get overlooked because we go down there and we say, well, there's some cracks. You're right, I'm the professional. And what's troubling is when there's this disconnect and I am still, in a way, being treated as somebody that's not a professional in this field, and I can go down there and do the service and assessment myself, or have a Grindline team member on their own dime come in, like they have, assess it, and go, these are things that could be addressed before they get worse. And it's cheap. But if you want to go out for bid, if you want to go out and explore different options, please do. But I am telling you, you are not going to get a cost that we have gotten. North Range is a professional company that can come in, do this prior to the winter season, so we don't have these blowouts, because some of that caulking hasn't been done. So those are gonna blow out. It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
So last year,
Yes,
we brought this same company in that you're referencing, Northridge.
yes,
And he did, as we mentioned, some soft washing, pressure washing, seal coating.
yes,
You just referenced some chips and things that need to be addressed.
yes, correct.
Northridge is not able to do that work?
No,
So we're talking about two different things here. You're addressing power washing and seal coating that you want done, but what I just heard from you is the danger is some chipping and stuff that needs to be addressed as the danger. So hearing that, I think we should be focusing probably on hazard stuff right away.
appreciate your feedback, Toby. You're correct, but I appreciate your feedback for pointing that out.
All right, so we have $1,500 in our budget to do maintenance. One question is, oh, wait, we have another,
So I have a question. What does the Parks Department do for other entities in parks, such as Portage Little League, soccer? What do we do for maintenance on those?
So for example, a baseball field, a soccer field, we paint the lines. There's a contract that we get a rough $2,000 that pays for the time to go and chalk a field every day. I know Portage Youth Baseball, last year, they paid. Obviously, they're the sole providers of that and want to see the improvements. They go out and they brought in a contractor to do some edging, some rolling, clean up some lip areas, fix the mounds, do some of that sort of stuff. So, yes, it's our facility, but
I guess I just have the question because somebody that was formerly in the chair also told the Portage Little League to put a parking lot in for the
yes.
city, so if other amenities are donating money and donating their time to try to fix things, why are we not doing that at the Portage Skate Park also?
more collaborative.
Correct. And I don't know if that's separate entities or how that looks, but I guess that would be one of my questions, is if we're talking about $3,000, why can't Mr. Little figure out on the volunteers
And that was a comment I was going to make.
Unfortunately, they walked out, for anybody watching. But yeah, I had an email up that I was gonna ask, I always like to say, am I the crazy one, right? Am I wrong about this? And we reached out, actually, the mayor did, because he was concerned, is the city not living up to his obligation? We went through all the MOUs and even the maintenance policy. The MOUs expired immediately after the skate park were built. There is no contract between the city and the park, and the Portage Skate Park Association. It just doesn't exist, it's not real.
And then just give it a little background, the MOU was drafted in the time before the project was complete, about the finances, about construction. Those were kind of, the city was gonna take ownership, if you read the MOUs, that's what's in the MOU, and it states after completion, the MOU is terminated, and it's handed off to the city.
But had reached out to New Richmond, Mount Horeb, Weston, Stevens Point, and Manitowoc, because we're just saying, are we really being terribly negligent here? All of them said that they do not do this on an annual basis with their skate parks. Now, you could make the argument, well, maybe everybody's negligent, but the reality is we live in a municipal government in which we've cut 3 full-time people over the last 2 years just to make ends meet, change everybody's health insurance to a higher deductible, making people pay more, and yet, these are the decisions that have to be made, right? And you have to allocate, I don't feel like we're being negligent. I went down there today, I talked to a couple skaters, had a very nice conversation. They're very happy about it, they think it's a great amenity, they love it, that's awesome, they were using it, very nice kids. I told them why I was there, because I was taking photos of things out there. And these are a couple of them. I do agree that some of them do need to be caulked, because, I used to run a pool, an outdoor pool, it's very similar to this, to be completely honest. Every year, Newman Pools was trying to sell me on a $100,000 liner, right? 30 years later, the pool's still okay. I'm not saying that's the situation, but we have to pair these things with the reality of being a Wisconsin local government with levy limits. I do think there's a couple cracks that absolutely do need to be addressed with caulking, but I have a feeling like that was going to be addressed anyway. So, because there are, there's clear evidence of maintenance. I have a picture here. Prior year maintenance, you can see where the city has gone and caulked cracks as they appear. It's
Part of the
concrete.
contract, so the city, back when we worked with Grindland to do some maintenance stuff, and also some of the work that was done with the curbing, did some of that work for us,
Right.
that we paid for.
So there's a narrative that somehow we just take things and we never do maintenance. That is so wrong. We do maintenance. We do care about these things. There's a reason that, I don't know, I sat down with Kyle 2 years ago, and I advocated in the budget to have this whole work done, and here we are telling us that we're not doing anything at all. So it's wallow at this point.
So to kind of keep this moving, if anybody has any comments, but to me, unless I will reach out to Kyle, once again, we have $1,500, and he asked, like, he is the expert, like, he's the Portage Family Skate Park president, why wouldn't I reach out to him for advice? It's like Portage Youth Baseball, right? Like, I'm not gonna just go down there and say, this is what we're doing, I'm gonna ask the users and the people that have the pride in that, like, what do you think? And we work on that relationship, so tell them, like, I got $1,500, what do we wanna prioritize? If they really so feel that the seal coating in that, then they want to provide a donation so we can do it. I would have no problem if that's what they want to do. But not to elaborate, what I just heard at the end is the seal coating and pressure washing isn't the concern. If we have some hazards of chipping, that's what we should be spending the money to try to get those areas corrected.
Which is reasonable, but I haven't heard the safety concerns I heard. The blowout thing certainly happens. I think it's probably pretty low in this specific soil environment. We're talking about sand. Seen some really weird things happen. But, it's just, you just have to pair all of this stuff to make a good judgment call.
So I don't know if we necessarily need action unless somebody wants to see something complete. I think we had good discussion, filled everybody in on the status. I truly don't think we're neglecting this game.
As a follow-up, should we kind of pursue a continued collaboration effort with skateboard people and perhaps other civic groups such as Kiwanis or others to help participate?
And as I mentioned, I think this would be a conversation that I would have going into our 2026 budget as I ask for things. But I know that where the city is at, I need to be fiscally responsible and kind of prioritize too what I'm asking for.
Well, and like, last year when you wanted to do improvements down there that were maintenance related, you did an excellent job of pairing it with local communities getting grants.
Lens Trust, they gave Portage Family Skate Park gave some funds. Yes, we worked together to get some stuff accomplished.
Any other comments or concerns, feelings? Otherwise, I think we can move on then. All right, item number 6, discussion and possible action on naming the Highway 33 Wayside. Now, this one's interesting.
Yes, so for those of you that know Highway 33 Wayside, recently we put in an ADA canoe kayak launch, which was, once again, working with collaborative groups, 100% funded through donations and a DNR grant. That is a huge amenity to our park. I think we refer to it, there's no park sign, and we refer to it as the Highway 33 Wayside. We have this amazing feature in our community, and we want people to come to our community to utilize this feature, and how do you describe it? Well, it's out on 33. Like, it would be great to have a name. I don't know what that name is, so we can look at history, surgeons' quarters across the street, I mean, the volunteer groups, we can figure that out, but I think I wanted to bring up naming that facility. In that process, working with Michael, reached out to our attorney, Jesse, and our police chief. Because in the meantime, the police chief, coincidentally, they had an individual that was sleeping in their car overnight. And it's not classified truly as a park. He's like, is it a wayside or is it a park? I'm like, well, I call it a park. So we did some research, and if you go on to the deed, Jesse, our attorney, found the deed that was granted to the city for this parcel. If you read number 1, the property and facilities thereon shall, upon request, be made available for inspection to Wisconsin DOT, blah, blah, blah. Number 2, the Highway 33 East Wayside shall continue to be used and maintained as a highway wayside and may be used for other outdoor recreation purposes. So to kind of summarize, we can name the park, and the attorney says we can still call it a park, and we can come up with a name, and we could put a park sign and call it Johnson Park. However, because of the deed, it has to stay a wayside, and we cannot control overnight parking. Now, one of the stipulations that is in there, if you read, we can petition the state to call it surplus, I believe it's called excess lands, if they would remove it as a wayside and give it to us as a park in the future. So we have lots of kind, and to keep this moving, I'm going to bring this back, but I wanted to just give you the background and get people's opinions. I think that we should name this park and get it more identifiable in Portage.
Another question I posed to Jesse, or the city attorney, excuse me, is it is a transportation facility. So, you know, our park ban policy probably, I don't know if we could really ever ban people from this park because, you know, it's very similar to, like, we've gone through this with the airport, right? Could we actually ban somebody from being a transportation facility? It's unlikely because, and it is a piece of state property. So I think naming it's fine, designating it as a park. We just can't prohibit overnight parking, and I'm not really sure how our park ban policy would really work. I don't know if we really could do it, just because it is a state asset. So those are the only 2 notes.
So just to read from our city attorney, just quickly to summarize, I agree that it can be a park, and we will need to adopt, revise the ordinance related to park hours to exclude the wayside use at this park. My recommendation would be to have the park board make a recommendation on a name or whatever the policy says for naming parks. Send it off to have planning commission make a recommendation on whether this land should be a park, and then have common council adopt a resolution designating the parcel for park purposes, and also adopt an ordinance specifying the special rules for this park, which would probably just be a revision to ordinance 54-50. So you can see there's gonna be a process here. So it starts with us here, from naming. Sometimes, you know, we have the Portage Service Club raise a lot of funds. We've named stuff after people in the park. So that would be the first conversation we're gonna name it. I think this group needs to kind of decide, you know, who do we recognize and where do we wanna go with that naming process, so.
Is this the same, I always forget, is this the same one that has the historical sign on it?
Yes.
For
down by the
Jefferson
water,
Davis?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a, yeah, it's an interesting wayside. Probably don't want to go there.
So,
I don't know if you knew this, but the former president of the Confederacy used to live in Portage. Seriously. 1850s.
So unless anybody has any questions, once again, I don't think any action needs to take. I wanted to get you some background. This is gonna be a process.
Well, one question is,
yep.
gosh, can we name it as a park?
Jesse said yes, right from the attorney that we can
should.
name it. So the first question would, do we agree that we should name it as a park from this group? And then we bring it back and start having discussions on,
I think it'd be nice, wayfinding wise.
and how we go about that process. Are we gonna, like, communities open stuff up for public to weigh in on naming? And so, I mean, those are gonna be
You're gonna end up with
conversations.
Bodie McBoatface then.
Yeah, and,
So, I mean, but that's where
Yeah, the
we need
British
some
certainly regret
recommendations
that.
from that.
So perhaps a dumb question, but is there a way to approach Wisconsin DOT, talk about enforcement of overnight regulations? You know,
Well, we can, and we can see it, like, to start the process of if they would, like I said, excess lands, remove it from a wayside. And I can try to figure out who that is. Sometimes that's a challenge in itself to find who that is. But I can work on that.
Existing ordinance that would address overnight,
We do.
In parks,
just in parks. then.
because this is a wayside, it's not considered a
If we
park.
designated a park, those, and that's what Jesse's saying, we need to amend to have special rules so it doesn't violate the deed. I don't think we could ever restrict overnight parking because of the nature of it. Which,
Unless they gave it to us excess lands and it's no longer a
right,
wayside.
if it was given in surplus, I doubt it because of the historical marker there that they would surplus it. The historical marker there is really interesting. But, you know, Fort Winnebago, the actual Fort Winnebago, right adjacent, the historical site is directly adjacent to this site, so.
I had a question. Like on Highway 16 going to the Dells, they had the Wayside. I know that they had issues with overnight camping. I mean, people sleeping in the vehicles and stuff. That's different than overnight camping, because then, you know, they've got the tents and stuff out there.
Camping
So,
would be
no, I actually had a conversation, because I called Jesse about wanting to get some clarification as we talked about what we can and can't do.
Yep.
Overnight parking is, but they cannot overnight camp. We can still regulate that, so they can't put tents up and stuff like that.
So we can put a sign up there that says
We could
no
have rules,
overnight
yeah.
camping. I mean, I understand. in
Cars can
regards
park
to that.
overnight and all that. sort of
Right, because I mean, because it's a wayside, it's gotta provide that opportunity to be able to, you know,
stuff. Or commuter stop.
right, but if we had a sign that, you know, just put out there, no overnight camping, like I said, there's a difference between overnight camping and just sleeping in your car.
Yes.
The wayside, so.
Right. So do we ask the board then to think about names for the
Yes, I
next
think this group, just to start thinking about it, and we'll bring it back, the process of naming that park.
June, okay? All right, we'll move on to the next item then, discussion and possible action on the court plan, which is a five-year park plan for the city of Portage.
So I handed this out to everybody for those new members. Last time it was done is in July of 2019. Basically, a court plan lays out future growth, like what is our plan with the park system, short range, long range, some of those sort of things. It is also a requirement to get any kind of grant funding through the state or the DNR. For Knowles Nelson, Boater Recreation Facility Trails, you need to have an updated court plan. This court plan, I've had some conversations with Chuck, I've had conversations with Michael. I think there's some things that need to be updated and outdated that just aren't feasible, maybe that were put into that plan. I've included in the packet, we had some conversations with MSA, who does a lot of work with the city, back in November of 2023, in a rough cost. It kind of gives you the breakdown what they would do, but you're talking $15,000 plus to do this plan. It is a lengthy plan. It kind of lays it out. You can decide how much you want to get involved, but you can do community surveying. You can find out, you know, what are people interested in? Is it more trails? We could lay out, like, projects, next 5 years, project, 10 years. So we would kind of talk about some of that. As a park board, we talked about this probably a year and a half ago, and we kind of, as we were going into that, end of '23, talked a little bit about that, and wanting to do it. Once again, it comes down to, unfortunately, a financial thing at the time, right? Like, financially, if we're not doing it, do you start the clock a little bit? There's some difference of opinions. I think you should get it updated so you're ready to go. But yet, if we're not gonna do a project, there's really some financial for a couple of years, there's that balancing. But in that, I think Chuck and Michael have had, if you guys wanna share a little bit about the funding ideas behind this.
So, obviously, the background here is that budgets have been very tight for the last few years, been through several referendums, so there simply wasn't the money to go ahead with the court plan, at least in this budget year. I have had some recent conversation with Michael, talking about some alternative funding possibilities. And Michael is going to follow up on that as well.
Yeah, so a couple, and these are good problems, the ones that I'm going to talk about. So, as you saw at the beginning of the meeting, the city is growing, which means every time a subdivision is, and this is good for everybody to know, every time a subdivision is platted, the developer has to do one of two things: either dedicate parkland, which in the first case was the dog park, city owned that land. The developer paid the city a lot of money for all those lots and then turned around and they did most of it on their dime, and then the extra stuff we wanted done, we actually paid it with the funds they paid us out of that parkland fund. So, we are getting, probably another subdivision in this town that the finance committee is gonna be talking about on Wednesday. That developer, and it's pertinent to this, I have talked to them, and they're gonna have to write a pretty hefty check to the city as well. They have to pay $600 per unit to the parkland dedication. On this specific development, there's gonna be about 84 units. They had mentioned that they don't want to dedicate parkland because it's gonna be all private property, there's gonna be no streets conveyed. It's very similar to rolling, yeah, rolling.
Prairie.
Woods?
Prairie.
What's the one over by the airport? Rolling Woods. Woods, Rolling Woods. There's so many rollings in this town. They had mentioned that in lieu of that, they would hope that, you know, the city is thinking about planning for trail connections. Because there isn't parkland in that area, they would hope that the check that they're gonna write to the city would be used for future planning. And they're not making demands, and they can't, but that was just something they had said. And that Chuck and I had talked about the possible use of increment and the possible use of the parkland dedication as a way to fund a new corp, which, you know, you get mired down, and I just knew it couldn't come out of the general fund. And Alderman Benander, he's the finance chair, knows that that's not something we really can do, very pertinent to the skate park discussion earlier. But when we have these special funds, where, you know, growth, you need to do things because of growth. And when we collect tax increment in these TID districts, it is eligible and expense, something like this. TID 11 is big enough where it really encompasses the whole town. And then parkland dedication, you know, maybe it's a little bit from general, but mostly from those other three. Anyways, I think provided that development happens, you know, we're gonna be able to do it and it doesn't affect taxes, or it doesn't come out of the general fund. So, that's I have to thank Chuck because he's like, can't you use TID? And I'm like, oh my God, you're right, we can use TID. So,
So there's no guarantee, obviously, so that'll be a decision, I guess, a final decision by Finance Committee. But I would like to see it get back on track. Start late summer, fall, get the core plan prepared over the winter months, and be in a position to apply for grants in 2026 or certainly 2027. At least that's my view. I don't know how other committee members
One
feel
of,
about that. Go ahead. Toby.
I'll bring back at our June meeting and put this back on there, just because it's been a couple years to get it, just to see if the price, hopefully they're gonna hold the line, right? Obviously, so we can bring that back from MSA just to kind of do. There is some variables that we can get into talking about that, but that would be the first thing, so we kind of have an idea of where we're going with that.
I'm not afraid to say I have a high favorability towards MSA in particular. Just because they are the best when it comes to grants. They find grants, they write grants, they administer them for you. Of course, you pay them with the grant proceeds, but getting grants is not easy. There's a lot of reporting requirements. MSA is the reason I reached out to them is if you get a grant, they will administer it for you. And that takes a whole lot of work off the finance staff, complying with all these federal and state mandates for any money. So that was my thought of why MSA, I mean, they really have a great reputation.
And just to jump on there, we use them for our city GIS. So when it comes to maps and stuff like that, we have they
Out
have
of
some
the-
stuff, some background set up already.
Out of the $10 million CDBG grants last year, MSA facilitated 8 of them.
Toby, can you tell the committee a few of the examples of what we've done with corp funds before? Grants that we've got out
Oh,
of
that we've
corp?
gotten?
Yeah.
So the Beasley Pavilion at Paul Cap Park, that was through Knowles Nelson, 50% match there. We just got $32,000 out at the canoe kayak launch, which could have been gray area because technically are, expired, but it was right at the end of that, right, of that time frame. It could be trail systems. The other thing that they've done in the past, years ago, the fishing pier with some DNR grants down at Silver Lake. There's gonna be some conversations about weed harvester, if the city's, that's a whole nother topic to come, and not gonna get into it, but if we're gonna do that, there's grants that we would need to apply for that, so.
You'd want to identify Silver Lake in there.
There, like the development the Pocket Park downtown, that was through, the grant for
Pocket
that.
Park, we got a $50,000 grant, and we definitely referenced a corp from WEDC. Yes. The one across from the popcorn corner.
So I think,
We got traction out of the old
So
one.
the biggest thing I think what is important is not only some identifying some things that we want to do with our existing parks, but as we talk, and Jeff Vine tonight talked about if Rolling Prairie keeps developing, and if we're going to get some parkland, there's going to be an opportunity to apply for some grants for shelter, playground, right, development. So that is also like what we want to put in those parks on that north side of town because of the lack of facilities when you look at a map. Why I think we need to be proactive to kind of start working on this.
I'm totally in favor.
And I think trails are gonna be a big thing.
Right. The grant programs are geared toward the passive recreational opportunities. Don't like to do playgrounds, or baseball diamonds, that kind of thing. Trails and passive recreation resources, that's really where the action is.
I think Chuck is pretty astute, and the trail connection possibilities in this town are pretty good. We have a lot of trails already, but there's a lot of them that just sort of end and they need to be connected. The high voltage transmission line through town definitely serves a opportunity.
So just to give you, for example, one area that I think, like, I would like to prioritize when it comes to trails, Gunderson Park, you have the hospital, has a set, Aspirus off the top, they have a section of trails. The school district has a section of trail, and then it goes into our parkland, that trail that comes up, and then even down Hamilton Street. To look to connect off of that corner over to the high school. As all this subdivision and everything that's going, that could really connect and help a lot of families
And Gums's, to great expense, have put in a trail that's gonna connect
Also down
to Hamilton.
all the way to
And so, I mean, there's potential.
And if you think of the way the city of Portage is growing, the north and the northeast, needs a park setting, we could apply for grants for land acquisition as well, that would be devoted.
Sort of a.
I think we're in favor of
Yeah.
moving forward. I think that was just down there to give a little background. You know, like Sarah, Tyler, I think you knew a little bit, but like Shannon, like dive into that document just to kind of see some in there. You'll see some stuff that's updated, like there's, just quickly, like a whole development down at the fairgrounds. That's not realistic. I mean, that's a $5 million plan that I think there's more resources probably than to.
But a little assignment for you, so we're gonna meet in June, we'll have this as an agenda item, be thinking of your short-range and long-range park and recreation needs, 5-year and 15-year.
Like, these things you'd like to see within the city park system.
You know, the price, you get what you pay for. I've been on, you know, in the case of a lot of these sort of planning things with parks. Community input is critical. You don't really, you know what I mean? That's pretty key. I mean, how else are you going to judge what the community wants unless you're actively soliciting responses? And, you know, these companies know how to do that.
Okay?
Next item, discussion and possible recommendation on press box at Little League Complex.
So I was approached from Portage Youth Baseball, and Tyler can actually dive in as he's on the board for Portage Youth Baseball. They have proposed a rendering. I'll pass this around if you want to pass it that way and then just pass it back. Down at the Little League Complex, there's 3 fields. They call this a press box or a score box. 2 of the fields have one behind home plate. Field 3, when they actually put a slab in when they did the batting cages, this is where they're looking to propose to add another one. Once again, as the comment earlier, there would be no cost to the city. The Portage Youth Baseball is going to pay for it. Obviously, the city needs to approve. We need to make a recommendation to Planning Commission to allow them to move forward, because this would go through Planning Commission as a structure, that there's no objection being in a park is what we're looking for tonight.
And I'm ignorant to this, Tyler. Is there an existing agreement with Portage?
We have a contract,
Okay.
like for use of the facility. They pay the city yearly for use of the fields, and we prep them.
So this would really just fall under that, as far as if it was built.
Their structure?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be, because just the other ones are their
There
structure.
doesn't need to be a separate, you know.
We don't need to do it in a separate MO.
Is there electric run out there?
There is a pipe there right now that we put in the concrete
Okay.
to be able to put electric in it.
Who would do that work?
Electric One would be more than happy to donate that work.
Interesting.
And that's just gonna be for, like, just a announcement booth,
Yep,
that's all.
so it's gonna be.
Nothing else there?
Scorekeepers up top, and then below is gonna be storage.
Okay.
There's a shed there right now that we'd like to.
So at
Give back to
the,
the
oth-
city.
the other 2 fields
Yep.
off of the dugouts have like storage areas over on that field. there's a portable shed that's down the right field line, that they keep some equipment for that field.
Okay.
I think that's what they like to put that right underneath there and get rid of that shed that's down,
Okay.
that they use for some storage. Just because it's far away from, they don't have to drag everything over there for practices and games.
And
So
down
I would recommend allowing, recommending to Planning Commission approval of Portage Youth
We'll
Baseball.
have to put a site plan together.
Which a little bit of site plan, you'll have to work with Steve.
I'll move to refer the press box at Little League Complex to the Plan Commission.
Second.
We have a second by Ed. Roll call vote?
Camerath? Carlson?
Yes.
McReith? Sulik?
Aye.
Bernander?
Aye.
Dunahee?
Aye.
Next meeting is June 23rd at 5:30. And a motion for adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
I gotta go to my next board meeting now.